Hello. I want to beg, not for me. I want to beg for, how I want to make a manifest, not a superhero, but identity of relationship to the ground characters, and I want to make them interact. But I want to make it not a game, but I want to make it theater because it is already a game, pretending other at the same time, and that's and getting away with it because of misprision roles and uses of identities exploited individually, grouped, and together. Every position of relationship to how the identity of the ground's native relationship to our quality of fact treatment nature native, no matter if we're Native American or not, especially if we're not, and especially if they are. So simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly, because only when we're the species nature of volume positive to what is individually positive to active and progressive at the same time are we as what is positive that is temporary lasting. See, as the difference between criminal insidious nature of positive and our nature's uses and needs by of quality fact cheaping nature by logic what is not criminal, especially legalized criminal insidious nature, because it was criminally legalized since some ancient times. This just reminds. That's really what the modern religions are trying to be about. They're not let free speech. So people, we have tactically, categorically, intersciences, perfect world, victims reliant upon that per natures of industry, and as fact cheaping nature convictions, all rely on faith upon titles, integrity of natures of logic originally and still with experts on it, criminally foreign influence delusions raw too, categorically, types of psychology, sociology, their quality of fact cheaping nature, physical delusions and their roles with evidential racketeering, all tied to them, pretending that you could see things on, or you could tell logic on paper, then you have to interpret it correctly. When we have standing criminal and serious nature can't defend not just their standing natures from actual discernment, but the, from what exploits that, what invested that, not just physically, before physically or anything like that, invested everyone to fact cheaping nature, racketeering, crime acts, roles, and methods, and natures and styles. Not realizing this, tribes A through Z started blaming each other, fighting each other, not realizing this was coming since semi-ancient times. It knew that if they could make nations devalue internation sciences, their long words, our use of education properly, which evolution is quality of fact treatment nature, relationship to the value of the identity of the grounds, relationship to its quality of fact treatment nature, relationship to what's going to cause positive or negative value nature, progressions, evolution. See, we have that theater never parted because we have the organized crime method against our founders with torture, with slavery of them. Fact treatment nature slavery. You cannot say that someone labeled by a woman too. No, because then it makes it then it makes the natures of differences always with fact cheaping nature fronts, multi front, to maintain a quality of fact cheaping nature again as criminal and seditious nature. This is exploited too because by crime methods preventing free speech and counters to natures of identity theft, identity of fraud, whole groups, because they're keeping that hid because they're pretending they have the right to lie for what they don't, because they're keeping and out and pretending not to realize originally and still all kinds of exceptions and of exception nature forbid counters because we have interbranch family members at the same time using the rights to lie. Former director of the FBI down, other agencies, their family members, foreign police forms, their family members, medical families, doctors. See, this leaks into the real medicine. This leaks into the real doctors because it was already there. This just cultivates it, but what keeps it self-cultivated is the method that leaks in because it's already there's sophistication here before any identity of the ground relationships to the quality of fact shaping nature. We have racketeering bodies, methods, crime acts, whole methods recorded, associated right where we needed it originally, and still um, the experts on logic the most, not by accident, bridge most to originally still, what's way worse than witch trials, what's way worse than police corruption. These are criminally foreign influence states and areas, all victim predators wearing as and how it counts. Per and as really what this is an organized crime racketeering method. I'm not a lawyer. This is a racketeering method that is exploiting the identity of the ground's relationship to our quality of fact shaping nature. Its identity of relationship to itself as value. That when we all seek like clean water and like everything positive, the nature of it, its identity is set forth by and as a value nature system that these are all where are all tactical interior from. Specifically for and as a method that made not only all blame others things themselves, but doing that, knowing that once you do that, then they have self-defended quality of fact sheet nature that is breaching screen tool, breaching weapon tool, originally and still. So we have the organized crime that was against Germany, against America at the same time, against France, against all the nations, against Spain, against everyone at the same time, but everyone was blaming other things, others themselves, for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Acts like predicate acts, natures like wrongdoers, wrongdoing itself, mass criminal insidious natures of positive loving, because you have to keep going. So in other words, what's the guy who's forced with a less worse job than the other guy? So this is keeping the jobs that you can't defend, and also at the same time, you can't defend the surface values of the Constitution simultaneously. That's anticipated. That's already having been exploited. It's way worse now, and that was already what was propagated to keep all rules doing it. Again, blaming other things, and then you're defending that. And so when it comes time for, and which was originally and still for free speech to have mandated to be able to demonstrate instant means, instant evolution, what just stays itself, stays the value of itself to show how to do even more from nowhere again, and more, and in sustained ways instantly. Evolution's fruits and gifts. The Santa Claus is about criminally re-engineered republic. A clause is associated with the discernment, simultaneous discernment of a predicate value, which is inseparable from any sentence. And a clause is in nature of volume. And the Santa Claus is about the nature of volume that the branches are when individually they are crime methods, individually grouped together in the executive branch, individually grouped and together individually, the judicial branch, high victims, the high victim predators, in other words, individually grouped together, the political branches, not by accident. through originally and still, especially exploiting children with overt criminal enterprises, a whole bunch of nation shared policing, and see they're facilitated to roles with this because they already were. They're already valuing, in other words, even everyone, the identity of the relationship to the ground, quality of fact treating nature is recorded intersciences categorically through with criminally foreign influenced fact treatment language that was is relied upon by simultaneously exploited organized crime method roles that is a whole bunch of methods of liars, like a whole bunch of mass criminal fictitious natures originally and still, because all were victims, only capable of blaming other things. Oh, it's England. Oh, it's that. So this keeps each distinct. This keeps identities defending pseudo positive before the understanding. So they're going to blame what's simultaneously multi front using the reactions of what it does to get behind counters to what it does, because what it does is through everyone with other motivations, nature's needs, roles, and interests. Identity of the ground. These are the zoning laws are recorded criminally foreign influence only with tricks and only with recorded offensive interbranch evidence racketeering. Also, the branch is grouped, like specifically regarding that first with the group between the executive branch and the judicial branch with racketeering together originally and still. They're juxtaposed with private racketeering and with overt criminal enterprises and collusion. All victim predators kept needing to hide the same finite, active, progressive sequence shifts and natures of identity theft crime acts roles and uses of their nature, everyone's nature. In other words, their free speech. See, their sequence shifts, preventing rackets, preventing demonstration of this, what is really recorded. And they're switching names and forging names because each of the branches, each of the natures of police forms, each of the natures of courts know on off their state judicial branch offices on off. These are verbal federal crime rules when it comes down to uses of the branches weapons and rolls with poisons and with gavels and with, in other words, with prisons and their roles with all private tied to them involved with this. And then so through methods also involved with behavior that are keeping all identities of the law as vicious predators that pretend it's normal. You can't you just say certain things you have to say in the background or we'll get attacked. Then in other words, they're pretending what they can't pretend without acting. In other words, because they're preventing sequence shifts from being demonstrated. How they've been stacking. They stack little kids into acting theater roles that they exploit later. They're attaching little kids at the same time and adults to fake words, fake sequence shifts, fake locations. These are all kinds of roles with originally still states and areas in collusion. That's what brought us into World War One, World War Two, Vietnam, Iraq War. See, that was worse than coalition. That was a whole bunch of the entire species from some ancient times in an identity of negative value nature progression. Everyone worse than just and maintained without even realizing it, blaming the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts of natures on other things other than themselves. This the only way to stop this is to use how we are the nature of volume, where logic it has needs by sequence true, has needs for relief from the mass identity theft rackets and racketeering rules with recorded live progressions from that that are hid by pretending to perceive things, having things facilitated, acted in collusion with that, facilitated to it, so people could pretend what they all those people involved with that pretend things like motives mean something. We have mass criminal and citizen natures. We have mass wrongdoing. We have mass worsening training. Training they keep is a shared means to blame other things, others themselves. What is in intercampuses, victim predator roles with what is each intercampuses of all ages, types, and natures, including and especially regarding medical campuses and the ones with the judicial department, Pentagon racket roles into everything. You think psychology spoke for souls. You think that was still has the suits and ties and let all that progress with the nuclear bombs and this and that and this side that damaging them as fake sides. They consolidated the sides more and more, and no one ever spoke. No one ever used any of that technology, any of those means to liberate the recorded since before our founders' births forced pathology of infrastructure for the perpetual fact-cheating nature, slavery, torture, identity thefts of our founders, of everyone. Boxing is fun when they appear alone. That sophistication forbid them. They are forbid for sophistication, as our Constitution is forbid reliefs, as captive breaching tool, as lands are each. Stay not this fool. These are not means. You know how one way redeems? Then we can afford everything. It costs nothing. You know, and people will just give us the thing. We'll bring and everyone will help bring from the depths the rocks the things we need. The motion, and that reveals means out of nowhere to make what nature longs, which is the nature of soils and relationships and uses by those seeds. Lost nature pleads. Means reveal. This changes everything. This reveals what could not be fathomed. Otherwise, what stays unfathomable is anything but what's valuing the identity of negative value, nature, progression, acts, and natures, blame to other things other than themselves. Blame individuals for what's set up to keep all littering. You know, in other words, there are priorities too, especially regarding it's worse than poverty. They call it poverty because they trick people. They want to keep everyone positive. Everyone's tortured. You know, in other words, so it's all right to say, okay, I'm comfortable with life, but don't fight when someone's still all this time never let voice really for the forsaken. That's self-valuing, especially the people that are justice, law, identities. A different kind of victim predator raised by a different kind of nature of child abuse. The same way they're in collusion with the same thing that keeps these overt criminal enterprises propagated, telling this use the same identity theft rackets rolls with them, same crime methods rolls with them recorded. They're preventing free speech. They are recorded preventing people from using their calm speech to go into police stations or to call up police stations to counter their roles with recorded a pattern of crimes with child sex offenders even and untimely deaths. I brought this up on off campuses, federal crime acts roles, and with off campus from off campuses through time maintained rules with this collusion. How? From former director of the FBI down, his lawyer, Robert Chevrolet, whole bunch of federal criminals, their family members, associated people who with my high school that were involved, recorded and confessed federal crimes of people with identity thefts. I don't even know from middle school. They have people walk by you pretending other. They had roles with judges retired and standing, attaching kids fake locations through time, sequence shifts, crime acts roles with a whole bunch of federal crime criminal enterprises clicks and the witness protection program, all used by a whole bunch of police forms. Former director of the FBI down, for the Weathersfield police chief. His daughter reportedly confessed to involved further with the principal child defenders campus. And I never had a class with her. I never was in her presence ever in my life. Her husband also, a Mazzucato family, recorded, confessed, demonstrated involved crimes through time with identity thefts, attaching people and kids, and with the Justice Department rackets, foreign and domestic police forms, overt criminal enterprises, attaching people to fake locations, fake sequences. These are people, media recorded and confessed, a whole bunch of media, WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, NBC, recorded and confessed crimes with a whole bunch of police forms and foreign and domestic and overt criminalized. All I mentioned, military, foreign and domestic, on off West Hartford locations. See, it's on off state judicial branch offices locations, on off state prison offices. It's what keeps everyone already motivated to lie in the background to prevent people from countering them intercities crime acts, forging names, switching names, progressively tied intercities time treatments, which is preventing counters to natures of and methods of extortion, of mail crime methods, of a whole wire crime methods that has police locked into forging names, switching names, faking, put the name of police equipment and put people in quotes because they had to attach them to fake conversations with them, fake locations with them. They have people like a Janito Mendez walked by, smiled like one time, and they had people say his name to me before. So he seemed like a nice guy. I never had one conversation with him in my life, not one word. And that was timed when they did that. These are people involved federal crimes with child sex offenders, with doctors involved with crimes with their patients and criminals with that, like with the principal child offenders campus further, because these are also people, drug crime rules, formal and gangs drugs, as the doctors involved with the medical families attached me to fake conversations because they also use how they're using the campuses criminally through time. They're preventing people from from countering crime methods that make differences, and they bring them to the schools involved with it, but then they make the schools break the law because the law is telling them to do it, because we have them still criminally, they'll still need to hide line progressions offensively. So they have crime methods to do with this. So if I try to call up the Weathersfield police, they'll pretend they're just using regular methods of pretending, right to lie, but they already used it for racketeering. And in other words, they already attached it. They already know that they attached that to racketeering acts, like mail crime rolls, forging names, switching names, attaching little kids to fake locations, sustaining verbal federal crimes, lies with overt criminal enterprises through the same grammar school through time with the child sex offenders on off the campus, also tied to untimely deaths, criminal uses of those body dumping spots in connected ways through time. But we're involved with people with the identity thefts. There's also I think his name is, a whole bunch of people associated with houses in my area. See, then, because they do that and in crime method, I don't want to talk about other people. I need to have an answer for the interbranch forging names, switching names. Their crime methods individually grouped together, the Weathersfield police, other police departments, private police forms. Other nature of police, from former director of the FBI down, other natures of a whole bunch of FBI ways that other FBI agents and their family members and relationships to them and roles with training them are involved with overt criminal enterprises actually with evidences racketeering roles with databases racketeering roles originally and still that they're also distinctly and non-distinctly keeping online platforms as victim predator breaching organized crime tools for. There are also West Hartford police forms associated with the name Al Mansour who are recorded and confessed and demonstrated with a whole bunch of people in my area involved with each of the campuses I went through was tied to. See, there's a woman who was a wife of mine, and this is nothing personal. I found out about this slowly. There are a whole bunch of people tied to a house in my area. Again, tied to the witness, to FBI recorded, other agencies, police forms, foreign and domestic, overt criminal enterprises recorded, criminal uses, everything from the witness protection program and those same overt criminal enterprises used criminally with evidential crime acts, with mail crime acts rules, forging name acts crime rules, extortion method crime rules, mail crime methods, wire crime method rules, fake news crime acts, identity thefts, WFSB, whole bunch of people associated with Dillon's and with WFSB associated crimes with Fianzas and mayors retired and standing crimes with forensics clicks and with body dumping spots of Billy Grasso and with people associated on off CCSU tied intercities like West Hartford and locations near the highway, foreign and domestic military, deans involved, racketeering acts. There's a Frankie Reese. There are a whole bunch of people associated with the prison leaderships and their family members, recorded and demonstrated and confessed. See, they don't know the extent of what they recorded, demonstrated, and confessed. It's nothing personal. But that's what I'm trying to say. We have to have a response for the branches individually and grouped first. And that brings out how the other branches, because they're also recorded, demonstrated, confessed, long and criminally involved, facilitated to it through time, intercampuses, even interstates. This shows exactly, sickly, distinctly what is hurting each nation non-distinctly. And specifically, how it shows how non-distinctly they can't understand because they need to hide their life progressions and their actually recorded natures and uses of positive and so uses of identity that they can't defend in actual identity's course by and as logic's actual value and with sequence true. So we have mandated law prevented. How many times I have to beg this? They are recorded and confessed and demonstrated a whole bunch of nations. They pretend people are repeating things, so they have mental diagnosis. These are people who are recorded involved with online and with intercampuses crimes with child sex offenders and their family members. This is recorded and involved with how they have agencies associated with a whole bunch of people on and off Town Line Drive, and the businesses there's involved with foreign and domestic family members, involved with racketeering, leading up to and in the trade centers. And this is natures of racketeering where they don't understand the extent of how they're being used. Like with my wife, my first wife. There are also lawyers and judges and police forms private, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with this criminally now here. And they're all needed to pretend for other reasons because they're all involved with sequence shifts and people, again, crimes with a whole bunch of people that are crime roles with the child offenders problems. And this is also interreligious spots. This is also retired and standing judges and police forms exploitation for all they hide tied to the East Hartford locations with the airport, with their roles with shipping police and families, how they get them to roles facilitated and maintain self-cultivated, needing to hide life progressions in relationship to branches crime acts with crime methods where they already attached everyone to fake locations through time. They already needed to hide uses of courts and of police for real bad things, boxings, with overt criminal enterprises, with all kind of sick things like that, and with criminal uses of each, even the locations next to every difference of the landscape. Because, and they're using each age of fact, cheap in nature. This is culture's course. It's Trinity's. The rest is to see what lies. In other words, what is not physical is our value, where it counts, which is fact cheap in nature. Try to the sides forced with color were by an organized crime method. To not have that discerned yet is worse than not by accident. We have all. That's what forgiveness is for. Please follow mandated law for them. Someone respond to the sequence shifts in the racketeering acts of the news media, of the FBI, of their roles with databases, on off NBC. Also, they said that today. I saw they reported Al Mansour. That's another one. There's like 4 Al Mansours they have involved with the racketeering acts, with people involved with child offenders. Further, with the schools and with my name, attaching me to sequence shifts that with people that did it since I was a kid, with that same location. When I was in grammar school, they were and each school I went to, and this is in other cities. It's recorded. They're doing the same thing. They're having interbranch, all tied to them private military, dishonorably discharged, or should have been, all recorded in collusion with overt criminal enterprises, with other nations, police forms, private families, involve sequence of database crimes, natures of identity theft, election crimes, crime methods like knowing that already, so they make everyone pretend they're against it because everyone's a theater positive victim predator, fake integrity. Worse than that, lack of it. Whereas now, to preventing free speech when mandated law needs to demonstrate it originally and still, especially for Hartford, Connecticut, they're recorded and capable of being understood. No one's going to be no, honestly interpret their words, and or it's a whole mixture because they're also not going to say them correctly because no one has free speech. People pretending to have free speech. Watch if you try to ask them to follow mandated law to make to agree or not agree with basic correlation. See, they only the correlate agreeing or not with correlation is a trinity. It's not A or B and C. It's a nature of relationship to a complete nature, which is simultaneously 5 semi-natures too, which is simultaneously one nature's identity of relationship to itself, which we'll examine. But before we have to have, for first we need to be able to defend ourselves and our kids and the kids we know that are being abused. Now these are crimes where they're making where they're forcing it sustained. They're pretending just because they're caring about people's jobs, which is not true because they're involved with extortion. Now this is on. These are a whole bunch of people on and off Fox Connecticut News and associated with the DeMauro family, with a whole bunch of people associated with a Casper family, a whole bunch of people involved with on off Fox Connecticut News. Their crime acts rolls with Russian cliques and with medical families, fire families involved intercities, on off CCSU through time, on off other natures of campuses, how facilitated to it, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with them actively involved with abuses of each age of factory nature on and off the campuses still already in cases. Religion fail. Who disbelieves as quick as they hurt people that have hurt their whole lives, timeless ways. All you have to do is follow mandated law when someone asks you to report the sequence shifts and the crime acts fact sheeting nature with police departments and with judicial, even their prosecutors and even their attorneys involved crime spreading lies through little kids with overt criminal enterprises with campuses through time. I just remind we have military family, criminally foreign influence used through time, involved with the narratives, with the people that attach me to fake locations through time, who who pretend things acted out so they can pretend to perceive things through time, like the people associated on off the campuses for and the ones that are now retirement homes, things like that. It's sad. So there's a Sal Civiello, his family, and there are a whole bunch of people associated with a Dillon family on Two Rod Highway, and with a Phil Cololo, and with the Demoro family associated, and with the Kerr family associated with fake sides with the house in my area, and this Galora family on and off the campuses with them, intercities through time with agencies involved with crimes, with medical families, with identity thefts, forging names, switching names, attaching people to fake locations, fake conversations with them, and then they do it with a whole bunch of people. So then you just ignore it and you think everyone's crazy. Those are the people pretending you're crazy, and where they make you have reactions where you needed to try to figure out. We're obligated. So now I understand it too, because they also made the sequence shifts out of sequence, so they could when people try to speak back about the past, about positive and negative, about what really is right and wrong with education, they don't understand how to counter the nature of people lying about the past and lying about you each person in the present in relationship to their crime acts, roles, and uses of, and nature's made to self-value database crimes that were then before that and still as that, and then further from and as that, made lie progressions and maintained used by each age of fact nature against each other as the same ones as pseudo care roles with who knows who and who. It just they maintain the nature of criminal and seriousness nature of volume, fact treatment nature, self value. So they put physical color in there as one of the many methods, means, and roles to keep a whole bunch of fake passion natures needed to defend styles of logic, blaming other things, others themselves, and needing to value fake sides of correlation nature, not being discerned. All formal experts of the law, because they're all victim predators. They were originally and still fake sides of correlation nature, breaching screens and tools. For the method that makes standing criminal and serious nature, you can't defend that and free speech at the same time. The more free speech talks, the more you have to lie in the background, plot, use the background for great evil. Fat branches bow and fall. So I can help you guys with the news because I can show you. I'm not even a doctor. I'll show you the actually recorded natures, physical delusions, crime acts, roles as victims, but as victim predators, especially the ones that are overt predators, internations, fake sides, and their roles further with like fact cheating nature, organized crime, where they had shock and awe. When shock and awe, where shock and awe is tied to what we're painting with the ancient gaming system and with the news part of it, which is going to be owned by, because this is not a game. And this is also what pretends it understands it's not a game, that is evil, sick, faked aggression against who is calling it a game. Those people calling it a game are more right, except for when they're in the way of mandate truly righteous, which is here. So means appear. This is a story we have. We have all these people at each campus of each age that I went to, other natures and campuses, even UConn, victim predators. All campuses are predators, victims though. I mean, all campuses are great gifts. Everyone should go to college. From the college system, the campus system is also medical campuses that are still used for racketeering, originally and still with logic. A whole bunch of liars, offensive evidence perception, predator rackets, and methods, natures of crime that our American history is really about because their life progressions needed to hide that as the only ones that are capable. That's their method of crime. Pretend to perceive things, have things facilitated for them to pretend to perceive. They can't put things in writing. They already didn't do it. They know they didn't. They pretend things, oh, it's money, things like that. They know they're involved with more racketeering than that is private and foreign and shared and all that, especially with the psychology tied to the people who think for the courts, who are recorded too much criminally insidious to think for us and or nor for themselves even. This is recorded. This is not trying to make fun of them. This is recorded with their sequence shifts, mandate crimes. They pretend passions and emotions. Because they know they're recording using courts to stack fake things in the databases through time. There are a whole bunch of different natures of gun crime rules. As people crime acts rolls further, is the same ones pretending they're about litigation against such. In other words, leaving out exceptions. You little tricks with facts. What they put people in jail for a long time for. What they force adaptation to, with the crime method they have through the kids that is recorded, adapted, consciously distinctly and non-distinctly different through ages, but it's simultaneously non-distinctly the same organized crime method against each age of fact, chiefly nature originally still maintained, worse than forsaken as correlation nature's value. All leaders, especially ones that are culturally themed, white or black, and or passionate against that, without this being the subject, the trinity, the actual correlation nature, those are all fake sides. Those are all sequence shifting delusions. Science is self-valuing because they have their own physical delusions. They're trying to hold on to a concept or something that because everyone agrees. Correlation agrees. If you're there and what they call poverty, if you're born into that in those people stacking, that was put forth by what our founders wanted us to demonstrate. And that was forced. They thought by now we'd use correlation. Instead, we blame the cause of that on other things other than themselves. And that's mostly foreign owned. Regardless if they're dual citizens. We have to speak for and as the species nature of volume. We don't have time for games with semantics and with rhetoric without pseudo rhetoric and actual rhetoric discerned. Not one has learned. Just fools like bitches turn. Return. Campus Marcius calls you home. See what they call the campus. They say the campus Marcius in Ohio. The one derived. If you follow Wikipedia, the link about the campus Marcius in Detroit. I believe now it's just a park, but and then the campus Marcius in Ohio. Now, see, this is You can't explain the Campus Marcius in Ohio. You can't explain the impositions distinctly and non-distinctly upon one Native American tribe if you can't understand and explain the organized crime method upon each one of those Native American tribes and each one of those colonists associated with the fake sides, forced to fight with them, forced to denature what would have been the garden beyond what people could believe the Garden of Eden would be, which is an identity of relationship to itself with our value nature system through always. We have no integrity formally that is maintained criminally foreign influenced. That is maintained to maintain effects and roles and natures with that, blaming it and keeping it blamed and having had it blamed on other things other than self. This is a state offensive that made self-value all worse than brainwashed. I'll teach you logic here. C means appear. We have each modern nation failed, and how? These are what I mean. Simultaneously, these reliefs go throughout everything. All we have to just do is admit we have this common enemy from semi-ancient times, this common imposition, this pathology of infrastructure forced with the fact cheaping nature slavery of our founders, forced against a whole bunch of nations grouped, forced to self-value that, not realizing in layers needing to incapable of doing anything but blaming other things others themselves, being forced to distinctly and non-distinctly each position of fact cheaping nature. Not one let free speech, especially ours without power outside the campus, outside the government, the branches of government individually grouping together. This is where value comes from. But only when they're right. So when they're not right, we must be Romulus. Because already women's nature is forced to entertain what you can't entertain, and their value at the same time. You can't protract all the science that's by it. You can only use it for evil with this nature of overall systems that are all tactically ulterior from the one that is true always at once. And so as three natures of volume at once. Semi. And so as five semi natures of volume at once. And so we can see which one they share and how they share one identity. Each cell is three semi natures. Each cell of your body, cell, nuclear cell, body, cell wall. Each semi nature is simultaneously connected to the other cell walls. And again, to the value coming through that, with that, before and as that, both sides. I mean, all sides. So, in other words, return. Campus Marcius calls you home. Please learn. I'm not a doctor either. We have knowledge being used to get over on people. People are valuing sequence shift roles. People are valuing databases stacked with federal crimes, categorically allied with mass offensive evidence perception, fact treatment nature, racketeering roles and natures and styles of convictions of fact treatment nature, only heard voice, not science. That's how we have a whole industry right here. Areas. Every area is forsaken. To tell this truthfully and to tell this properly, you cannot deny that some areas are more that forsaken than others. Every area is forsaken. Even the most beautiful lands, part of places in the world, is a tactically denatured relationship to the nature forced by an organized crime method that came from some ancient times. This just reminds. So this, so we have racketeering and organized crime acts and methods, and nature's recorded interbranch. And this is what everyone in all those people stacking locations who want to know how to speak about that in legal terms, how to overcome it. This is how to do that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not police form, not criminal, not military. I could show you vaccines. The science of sharing identity. That's why the predicate is valued simultaneously to English, where and how the predicate act is value to the law simultaneously. Predicate act is in relationship to an identity and to identity that then who is then going to need to hide lie progressions, need to hide their actually recorded natures, need to hide the actually recorded natures of others in reactions to that, in reaction to that. And what we have doing that is a whole bunch of nations using mental diagnosis recorded involved with organized crime racketeering methods and natures actually recorded, methods recorded. So not only are they preventing free speech, they are preventing mandated law. Not only there are extortion methods recorded interbranch, intercampuses through time. How maintain motivated to this is recorded. They're pretending that they don't realize their criminal uses of the people with the name Al Mansur and of Saudi families involved with WFSB and with Fox Connecticut News and with a whole bunch of police forms, foreign and domestic and military families on off a whole bunch of locations associated with Central Connecticut State University, Trinity College, involve federal crimes with child offenders, involve crimes with people from my area associated with federal crimes that were facilitated to the people tied to the people with the name Al Mansur, recorded and confessed involved with the media, with the racketeering acts, with judges retired and standing, again, with doctors retired and standing, even ones with badges, especially regarding the ones with badges. We have military families involved with predicate acts, mail crimes, forging names, switching names. These are people that facilitated just because they pretended I knew people when I was a kid, with people tied to the ones at CCSU, the pretending passions and emotions tied to that. So they can leave out the sequence shifts, which are the only thing I'm trying to communicate about. I'm trying to report sequence shifts, recorded fake things into databases. I'm also trying to report. They're preventing that because of their roles with Justice Department corruption, with Pentagon corruption, that is former director of the FBI down, former standing chairperson on RICO law, that is state's attorneys already criminally involved with all kinds of cases. They're nuts, worse than wish trials. You think is involved with all the shootings? You know how many people they have little spots for candles? Thank God, though, because then I would know to speak about this. Others would know to speak about this. All the people getting shot. See, but no one's speaking about the law, but as a liar, but as uses of aggression, sickly, simultaneously as fake care, back and forth, simultaneously. Il Trinity. So this is from off campuses maintained. See, but now not letting that demonstrated how there were very natures of courts involved in their police forms and involved criminal uses of the campuses. So the campuses will lie. They'll forge names, switch names, play games with on off campuses, police how they have that switch there, but it's also they've been using it to hide from off that campus too. Police forms involved with racketeering crime acts that are sustained against people on and off Trinity College, on and off CCSU, because he's also former director of the FBI down. His lawyer involved a whole bunch of nature criminal enterprises, whole bunch of racketeering acts and natures involved with on and off these campuses, roles acting so they can pretend to perceive things that they are now recorded using in the background to pretend not to realize the integrity of my words when I quote and demonstrate that a whole bunch of people associated intercities are involved with Connecticut, Weathersfield, interbranch corruption intercities that is worse than interstates maintained the outcome originally and still. Uses of the very geographical identity of relationship to the ground set up to maintain identity of negative value nature progressions, action natures, and to maintain them blamed on other things and others themselves. And then that self value methodically breaching organized crime method. This is really what the organized crime that the method that the beginning of the Quran is about, but it's not let free speech. And we have that inclusion with what doesn't let free speech here because they're in collusion with a whole bunch of psychology doctors, ones with badges, foreign and domestic, involved with federal crimes with databases on campuses. Whole bunch of intercultural uses of like groups like even women rights people because then they're defending offensively roles with opinions and faith and other and courts recorded criminally foreign influence using uses of them in police forms criminally foreign influence uses of them uses of pretended undercover lying and pretending to lie where they're offensively using it to demonstrate it and confess it in relationship to their roles with federal crimes and cases with fake news crime acts, even with child offenders. And this is intercities, how connected with the houses next to the campuses, how they maintain so simply, easily affected, willing to call in fake things and pretend other. This is in conjunction with what keeps each nature of science categorically aligned with what was originally instilled, already entrenched. You can't defend that and quality of fact, treatment, nature, the surface values of the Constitution, not amendments and stuff like that. It means integrity. That means free speech. You don't have to know what value that is. It means sequence true. That means that you don't have to debate strangers, put one name in sequence. You should be able to defend yourself with calm speech. You know, I shouldn't have to counter more and more natures and methods of crime and of fakes, intervention tied to them privately. Whole bunch of people associated with the corner, the northeastern corner, the north, the west, the southwestern corner of Goodwin Park. There's like a home there. I think was believe it was associated with people associated with medical, children's medical, and associated with things tied to Helen Keller, like that. Those natures of people with hearing impaired. Now that was also used for organized crime per the method that was already entrenched here since before our founders, and that was used against um, you know, This is what we need free speech for. There's also a woman who was reportedly dragged to her death there, especially if that was made up. Those are the people associated with that are the ones associated like DeMoros and um Violet, Mark Violet, Mike Violet, his family member, associated with military police involved with predicate acts in the past that are rules that are tied with predicate acts now that are active that the branches are hiding because they're predicate acts with evidences. They already used the branches for real weapons against all kind of people. They already had to hide all kinds of federal crime acts and rules with people on off the state judicial branch offices, on off the state prison offices, already involved with federal crimes with databases with them through time, with children campuses with them, crimes with overt criminal enterprises, crimes with undercover police, recorded involved with crimes with those overt criminal enterprises, even criminal uses of the witness protection program through the same houses facilitated to it as victims, as victim predators, because the branches won't let themselves demonstrate, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated attaching fake things into databases through time. We have courts themselves involved with the worst natures of crimes and organized crime interstates. A whole bunch of people with the name Alicia involved with child sex offenders. Bobby, their motivations are roles with force share policing on off um share like they build aircraft. You need to make sure there's nothing wrong with it. You have to share policing, worse than negotiated with worse than terrorism. Originally still, all types of things like that. People involved with Oliveri family, a Joshua Julian, a Joshua Stryker, recorded and confessed involved further intercampuses, intercity, further with child offenders, federal crimes with overt criminal enterprises, with medical doctors also, and drug clicks with courts, even female judges involved with crimes with the kids, crimes with people with attaching kids through times and adults to fake locations, fake recorded things, all kinds of falsified police reports rolls. Therefore, all kinds of roles with them already, with all kinds of racketeering acts, already having blamed and needing to stay blamed the real cause of negative value nature progressions acts like predicate acts, criminal diseases natures that presidents need to counter. They need them to stay blamed on other things other than themselves. So they need the presidents to value their roles with racketeering with the prison cliques, with the uses of the campuses that train the prisons, with the uses of the criminality with the on off of it that's pretended just about training that legalized, but they're using it to hide criminal exceptions of those uses and how that's maintained, facilitated the outcome. Boxing is fun, but give it rest, guys. Sing it best. CCSU has also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated federal crime uses of all the boxing gyms in Connecticut, interstates. Crime Act's rules use of overt criminal enterprises lawyers and with mayors retired and standing associated with the gym and Sandy Hook families and overt prisoners and criminals and a principal sex offender evolve crimes further with other ones associated further with his campus then with female judges involved because they're using it to hide their life progressions offensively. They attach me to fake conversations through time. Other kids, they attach to fake locations through time. Me attached to fake locations through time since I was a kid. These are judges and retired and standing and prosecutors retired and standing involved with criminally with kids on off campuses through time, crime methods through time, using uses of who's going to know who and who's going to be pretended to the locations. This is like uses of organized crime methods They have to counter originally and still by allowing free speech. But they're preventing this offensively. Each branch is sickly criminally. New Britain Superior Court has recorded, confessed, and demonstrated criminally involved, presenting, made confessions, pretended they were investigating what they knew. They furthered with after that further crime acts rolled. They were involved with a whole bunch of racketeering, extortion acts, mail crimes, evidential federal crimes, rules crimes. A whole bunch of people associated with a Dr. Graham and with a Bob Chase, with various natures of courts and a whole bunch of other doctors, foreign and domestic, involved drug crimes with clicks like a Ray Reynolds and like other people associated with campuses I went through time, associated with people that were facilitated the crime, confessed and recorded, involved with the racketeering with CCSU, with their databases. So we have psychology involved with each branch of government thinking for them, and then the delusions raw, criminally foreign influence predators originally instilled. This is our course. We need we need mandated law. We need forgiveness. This is not perfect, personal against them, but this is the perfect world's voice, and that's what the nature of the law is about. That's care. It means appear. So New York, one person from New York, be their leader, be their leader. And one person from Hartford, be their leader. I'm Weathersfield's leader. That's recorded. We're going to show you how. I'm going to show you how there were election crimes. All victims, but all victim predators. I'll show how they were motivated and kept like that, pretending not to realize offensively, criminally. Because no, it's recorded that I asked many times to have their sequence shifts in federal crimes responded to. When we went into court, they recorded, confessed, and demonstrated and recorded. They use a whole bunch of federal crime acts and methods and natures that are indifferent and worse than indifferent to faking things recorded into databases and to valuing that, not let told on for reasons other than that they're pretending. They're forging names and switching names and sequences. Every time you go into court now, they have to write more and more lies. They have to value more and more different various natures of intercity departments involved with the same falsified police departments. Doesn't even make sense. All people that fake arresting officers, a whole bunch of people associated with Detective Samuda, who pretended he was an arresting officer, involved federal crimes with child sex offenders, even medical doctors involved with him, policing of their locations involved intercity. He pretended I was in a hospital that they under his supervision. It's out of his mind. He's out of his mind. We have various natures of courts involved criminally, leading up to and in the Trade Center attack, leading up to and in cases before that, leading up to and proven sequence shift in the Ninth Circuit right next to the Trade Center in Manhattan with the same ones, intercities, inter crime acts roles, intercampuses also facilitated. Crime acts roles facilitated to them. So their motives are not of relevance here. We're talking about the specific federal crime acts, sequence shifts, and evidence for crime rules. Like NBC Connecticut recorded and confessed and demonstrated a whole bunch of people involved with various natures of courts, criminally involved with a bunch of people with the name Al Mansour, further involved with the child sex offenders on clicks on and with criminal uses of the corners of Highcrest School with the narratives associated with this and with the crime methods recorded, with the perception of people recorded, how maintain criminally foreign influenced, how maintain victims, well, victim predators. See, we have how maintained roles preventing mandated law and pretending for reasons other than actual. No one really cares. So West Hartford Police, would you please respond? Because they also were involved. There's a Scalora family, a whole bunch of people associated with these courts involved with uses of Facebook also for sexual and medical and other natures of federal crimes with the kids. And with the Joshua Julian also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with federal criminal uses of the FBI through with the transition from ACA to RICO and with federal crimes with evidences through time associated with them and how that they've been with that with getting away with that because they share natures of differences and natures of valued peace and relationship to what is sick as peace too. Every modern nation, there's nothing worthy. We have mandated law not let follow. We have offensive evidence reception predators to hide and methods needing to hide their lie progressions by pretending to perceive things. That's what's actually recorded. And these are with all kinds of legal natures of criminality with real estate also involved with the judges retired and standing. A whole bunch of people associated with the Dillon family. See, these are people facilitated the criminal uses of my family through time, including the people from Saudi Arabia that are victims of the people who are consciously using the name Al Mansour criminally, and including with the investigations of the trade center attack, because these are people further with roles with their drug clicks, the other natures of federal crime clicks with doctors and with people on off the grammar school that brought up untimely deaths. All criminal use of the same clicks in my area. Former director of the FBI down, his federal criminals, the daughter of one who went to my school was in my grade, involved with a whole bunch of other women I never had anything to do with, the girls that I never had anything to do with, never had class with. I and also see that they use the databases where I went to school criminally. Christine Bedard, Christine Petardet was also used for federal racketeering with databases by judges and by police firms when I was in high school, and I was also with medical families involved with them with fake news crime acts, federal crimes of a whole bunch of natures, fake conversations with me tied to that. Now they need to pretend lies and lie progressions blamed on other things, and they need to pretend to perceive things that were not real. Paul Zano and others interstates are involved with with people associated with Johnson's Wheels, also with this family involved with their extended family members, further with identity thefts and with sequence shifts with them, and with roles with child sex offenders, with complete strangers like this Joshua Julian. Also, federal crimes with them with the police forms at the branch with overt criminal enterprises through time, criminal uses of shared policing of like job sites, of like everything, of like military. Originally, still, you can't defend that in us. You can't tell American history if you can't tell about what forced France and America to unite. You can't tell America any nation's history if you can't tell about what forced nations to entertain criminally foreign influenced roles with sciences, criminally foreign influenced. The value of that states and areas criminally foreign influenced. Lie progressions from every identity of law position. Please respond. Have them pick one name in sequence. They know they are recorded criminally pretending that we can't speak calmly with them or regularly with them because they are faking conversations. They already did that. Now they can't take fake calm language because they did too much ill. You know how long the fake branches have been worse than still? Look at Hartford, Connecticut. Look at New York City. That was a pathology of racketeering. That's all victim predators. pathology only let realize even group could afford. Even the richest groups, that's all they could afford. Because they're not using the native system. The volume is actually identity of value. The value of that is what reveals the difference. That's everything. What reveals or pushes away. That's Earth's simultaneously distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest, to the complete identity's relationship to its nature of volume, complete and gaining. It only stays complete. So we're semi-nature other systems. These 5Ds.